If you feel like you should do something, you might think, oh, I want to go traveling, or you want to turn down an opportunity because it just doesn't feel right. Then trust that you are doing the right thing, even if society or someone would tell you that it's the wrong thing. Trust that what you're doing is the right thing and right decision, because it will lead you to exactly where you need to be, and you're already exactly where you need to be. You have to be honest with yourself first and then with the other person. You have to ask yourself, can I actually deal with what this person is asking me to help with right now?
There's been a real unraveling inside for me to let go of those limiting beliefs and leveling up into another set of confidence. I had to become not confident to become confident again. What was so natural to us as children to just be this shining bright light. Life experiences happen and it dims that confidence, and then we have to do the work to unpick up all of that stuff to shine that light again.
Come on, guys, you're not telling me there's someone or something controlling this.
We wouldn't have been able to have these conversations when you were 11, when I was 18, because I would have gone to you, what are you talking about? What do you mean the full moon is doing this? There's more to what this reality is. Mm-hmm. When I did have those moments where I was meeting these people and they were coming into my orbit again, I was like, what is the meaning of this? And then I understood and found meaning in all of those things, and that needed to happen, because if that didn't happen, I would not be here.
Hey, beautiful soul. Yes, you. You are beautiful, whether you identify as female, male, trans, alien, fairy, witch, human, daughter, son, mother, sister, brother, grandpa, grandma. You are beautiful, and don't you ever forget to be you to the full. Thank you so much for stopping by and clicking on this episode. It has called you for a reason, and that is because it matches your frequency and your vibration, and there is a message in it for you. Before every episode, I sit in meditation and I ask for those who are meant to benefit from my conversations be guided to it. If you resonate with this episode, please subscribe, like, comment below, and even better, share this episode with another being. Now, when we share our information, it helps to bring consciousness to as many beings as possible. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending your time here and working on yourself to find out who you are so that you can shine your light for others and help the consciousness of the planet. Now, without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode.
I'd love to do a little meditation, because this is what I do before I start all of my podcasts. I would invite you to take a moment to close your eyes and ground your feet on the floor or on the bed, wherever you're sitting. And we'll just take a deep breath in for 4. We'll hold it for 2, and then we'll breathe out for 4. Getting comfortable, take a deep breath into your lungs. Imagining the breath is going all the way down your knees and your feet, into the bed or the floor, wherever you are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 2. 1, 2, and out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll do it 2 more times, breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, and out for 4. 3, 2, 1. Now taking in the deepest breath that you've taken all day, breathing in lower into your lungs, into your back, and into the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1, and out for 8 this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, we have the beautiful Milly Papworth, who is a musical theatre performer who shared her beautiful voice and performed on every single continent. And after performing on the seas and cruising for a couple of years, she's now back, currently freelance, but also she's one of my beautiful assistants for one of my businesses, InnerVox, where I hold all types of drama-based workshops for corporate companies. The link is in the description below if you'd like more information on that. But she's a typical manifesting generator in human design. Welcome to the Purpose Search podcast, Milly.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so empathetic. You're one of my like closest friends, and I feel like you just understand before you even need to say something. You have this intuition where you just know what the other person needs, and that is a real gift. Like that's a real gift, but it also can be um quite a negative as well when like people would overuse that from you and take a lot of energy from you. Do you ever feel that?
Yeah, I have felt that in the past. Um, and I think definitely as I've got older, I've got better at not even boundaries, but just emotionally a little bit like not letting everything affect me as much as it could do. I have a sister who's 10 years younger than me, and I kind of see that that was me 10 years ago. And things like, she might come home and get upset about something a friend's done or whatever. And now at 27, I can be more like, okay, well, maybe they were going through something, or you don't have to feel kind of 100% negative emotions at a time. And I think I've definitely just learnt that with age, because I think my natural kind of setting is to just feel exactly what someone else is feeling. But actually, then that is not necessarily going to be the most productive thing, because how can I help someone if they come to me feeling 100% negative and I then feel 100% negative? Then we're just going to be in a wallow of negativity.
Yeah.
So even though I
Yeah.
can, like, sympathize with it or feel that emotion, I've then got like another side that's got better at saying to people like, okay, I understand that you feel like this. Do you want me to offer you like practical advice? Do you want me to like come and pick you up from where you are and bring you chocolate and come and cry? Or do you want me to just be like, yeah, this is terrible, let's feel terrible for a while?
Mm. It's asking the other person what they need and
Yeah.
how you can then help them in that way. And that
Yeah.
is really that's a that's a really advanced way of like thinking, as rather than
Mm.
telling someone what they need, is like getting them to think how they can help themselves and what they need so that you can then provide it for them. If it's space that they need space, or if they just need someone to listen and not like respond to what they're saying, so that they could just be you could just be an outlet, but having that connection that someone's listening to you and being heard. So do you have any tips for anyone who's listening who is struggling with maybe boundaries, or and like energetic boundaries, and people are like taking a bit too much from them? They're really empathetic and they're really giving. Do you have any tips for how they might be able to look after themselves in that situation? What do you do?
I think you have to be honest with yourself first and then with the other person. So you have to kind of ask yourself, can I actually deal with what this person is asking me to help with right now? And if the answer is no, and you might be having a bad time, or you might just think, I actually just can't listen to this right now because I'm doing something else. If you're honest with yourself first, I cannot take on this person's problem right now, then I think I've found before that I can say, I'm really sorry, I'm not going to be the best person to help you right now. I'm struggling myself at the moment, or, you know, can you voice note me a rant and I will listen to it tomorrow, I promise, but I can't listen to you right now. And I have found that to be effective in the past, because there are days where I'm like, I literally do not have any brain space to think about something right now. And you just have to kind of forgive yourself for not always being able to help everyone. Because actually, if I had then in a time, let's say I was doing 3 different jobs in a day and I don't have time to listen to a voice note because I'm driving somewhere, and someone's like, oh my God, guess what just happened? Then if I'm half listening to it and just sort of trying to drive somewhere, or trying to plan a gig, or whatever I'm doing myself that day, then I'm not actually going to offer that person the best support. So again, it's just that like communication and honesty with yourself and with them, and saying, do you need my 100% attention right now? Because I can only give you 10%. So if you want someone to send a voice note to that I can listen to in 24 hours, brilliant. If not, I'm really sorry, like I can't help you today.
I love that. And do you know what? That is actually being loving to not only yourself, but the other person.
Yeah, and like I would never want, if you had something to talk to me about, I would never want to be saying to not be honest with you and for you to then be thinking, "Oh, well, that's not really the response that I was expecting from Millie, and I thought that she would, give this a bit more time or send me a more detailed response or answer my
Mm.
call or whatever it is." Whereas if you just reassure someone like, "Look, I really care about you. I really love you. I really want to be able to listen to this right now, but I can't," then that's also fine. And especially when you are someone that always does, I've never found that it's been a problem to just say, "Not today," basically.
I've had to learn about myself as well that putting myself first is the best thing that I can do for everybody. Um,
Well, it's like on a plane when they say, "Put on your mask before helping someone else." It is true. Because yeah, there's no use in trying to help someone and then not being able to help them because you've run out of oxygen and then you both got no oxygen.
I also have some which I do on a regular basis, is that I often will, if I'm feeling like a little bit like there's a lot of energy going on, I'll imagine that I have a bubble around me. And so say if I'm listening to a conversation that's quite like taxing or um maybe some quite like negative energy that you're having to hold space for, I will often imagine that I am kind of like Violet in Incredibles, like making this huge energetic field around me, this force field, yeah. When nothing can come in, um, but I can see everything and I can see all of the energy and it's not coming into my body. And it, and then I imagine like light coming through my crown chakra and coming through my body that's like cleansing anything that's there that's like blocking me from giving like the most loving response back. Um, and and so I find that that really helps ground me um when I'm like in like quite challenging situations and conversations. And I often will do it as well with another person. Like, so for example, right now I'm imagining that we have our own bubbles around each other, but we've also got a bubble around us that's protecting us from things and from any energies that want to come in into our energy. So I do that. That's one of the things that I do to like protect my own energy, especially like being a projector. And we're going to get into yours in a minute. But in human design, there are 5 different profiles, and one of them is a projector, which is where the projectors need to have a lot of rest and they need to be in their own energy a lot of the time. So for me, I find that holding this energetic bubble really helps me to come back to my own energy and come back to my own calm. So then I can be the best version of myself for other people. I always ask this to my guests, like, what's your star sign and what's your human design? So I know your star sign because it's the same as mine.
Yep,
But do you
of
want to tell the
course.
listeners?
So my star sign is Cancer.
Do you resonate with what it means for you?
100%. Yeah. I think definitely very much the emotional side, as in understanding people's emotions and being very emotionally connected to people. Definitely very kind of very much the natural mother of any group that I'm in. Um, yeah, it for a long time, pretty much ever since I started like learning about star signs, it just made a lot of sense to me.
Mm. And this also resonates with your human design as well, because you are a manifesting generator. And we explained this a little bit earlier, but you have like your fingers in so many different pies. And also one of my other guests that I had on the other day, she's also a manifesting generator.
Like,
And she also is very similar, like has her fingers in so many different pies, and her energy is just like everywhere. But that's how you're
yeah,
designed. You're meant to have your energy in different places, because you get you
yeah,
get energy back from all of those things too. And then it fulfills
yeah,
you to then just complete them all, and then you've done loads of million things, which is such a cool profile. I love that. I sometimes think
yeah.
like I'm a manifesting generator too, but but like I wouldn't be able to do the same amount of like work that you do in a day. Like I was watching you work the other day and I was like, whoa, shoot. I remember doing that when I was younger, and I was like, and I and I was like getting tired watching you. But I could see how like lit up you were. You were like, yeah, I could do this and that. Oh, it was brilliant. It was brilliant watching you. But it also is interesting because your profile is a 6-2. So you're a 6-2, which means that you are a wise sage. So the 6 is means that you get this like innate wisdom, like you just really know things. I was doing a little bit of research on the 6-2 as well, because it links also to the 1-3 up until your 30s. So I'm a 1-3, and the 1 is an investigator. So it's an investigator martyr, which means that the 1 means that you go down rabbit holes of wanting to know so much about a topic, and you go
Okay.
learning lots about information. And then the 3 line is the trial and error. So you will try things and realize, oh, well, I like that. And if it doesn't work out, then you're like, oh, well, that didn't, I tried it, didn't like that. So I move on to and align to something that does make me feel good, or I like doing. And that happens pretty much up until your 30s. I also want to talk about your incarnation cross. So for those of you that don't know what an incarnation cross is that it's your life's purpose and why you've been brought to this earth through your human design. So for those of you that don't know much about human design, it's an energetic blueprint of why you were brought to this earth. And it's based on the I Ching and the Kabbalah and the chakra system. And it's based on your date of birth, your place of birth, and the time of birth. And if you have all of those, you can find out your human design. So, Milly, your incarnation cross is based on 4 different gates of that energetic blueprint, which then gives you your life's purpose. And yours is the left angle cross of cycles, gates 53, 54, and gates 42 and 32. And when I was looking at this earlier, I was getting so excited because
Okay.
when I've been studying a lot of charts next to each other, and when I looked at your chart when I saw your numbers for one, I'm pretty sure that gate 32, 42 or 32 is like, forgive me if I'm wrong, is one of the endings of cycles, whereas I have the initiation, the starting of cycles, and the
Okay.
spark and the impact. So it's really interesting to see yours kind of completing mine, and that
Yeah, cool.
we complete a full channel. So when 2 gates match like that, they complete a full channel. I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about you and your spiritual experiences, and if you remember any early ones, because I know you were saying to me the other day that you remember just having this clear knowing of just standing up for yourself and questioning why people did things a certain way.
I think I just already knew about it. I didn't ever feel like, oh, I'm now spiritually enlightened. I just feel like the whole time for my whole life, I've been like, well, yeah, obviously, you know, like I know jokingly but you saying, oh, my things complete yours. Yeah, of course they do. That's not even, we shouldn't even be surprised about that.
Okay, so you tell me, why do you not feel surprised by that? Whereas I'm like, oh, this is exciting, and you're just like, well, of course I do. Like, why is your reaction like that? Because there will be people listening to this going, but I don't understand. So please can you share some of your wisdom as to why you find that just to be true?
Yeah, so I just think for a long time, as long as I can remember, I would just know that things will work out. And it's just a
Mm.
very deep knowledge and confidence. It's just like an underlying, it's like confidence, like in my bones, that no matter what I look like, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, the right outcome will happen from this situation. And so then it can come across as being very confident, you know, in certain environments. People would be shocked to find out that I didn't think I looked good in this event or something, because they're like, but you came in and led the whole thing. And it's not that I'm pretending anything, but it's just this underlying, I'm always in the right place at the right time and I'm always saying the right things. Because even if it had a negative impact, you know, if I had an argument with someone or and then they stopped talking to me, that person was never then meant to be in my future.
Mm.
It is just a confidence that I'm in the right place at the right time, which has been maybe difficult to remember in the past, and definitely as I've got older I've remembered it more and actually been more kind of I think as a child or even as a teenager it was um it wasn't really a conscious thing. It was more of like, well, this is just the right thing to do, or this is the thing I should do. Whereas now, as you get older, you know, people do start questioning things a bit more, or because I'm, you know, 27 and I don't have a partner, people are sometimes like, oh, well, shouldn't you be settling down, or shouldn't you be doing this? And I'm like, no, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm doing exactly what I should be. And I
Mm.
know when something feels right or not, just very deep down. It's not something that I can even put really put words to, because it's just this strange, well, it's not strange, I don't think. It's just,
I don't think that's strange at all. And do you know what that also just manifests in itself is that why are they asking that question? Why do they think
exactly.
that we should be settling down at a certain age? Because who's telling us to do that? And it's interesting that you were saying about you had just had this innate confidence and you just knew that, and people would then be shocked by that. I've often had that being said to me as well. That people would say as a child, you were just you're so confident, and you were always just out there and on the stage and dancing away and all of this, and right at the front of the class and learning all the dance moves. And I remember my my ex's mum said to me once that you're just so confident and you just know what to do. And I re- I remember saying to her, like, well, I don't feel like that inside. And she was like, what? It was like they couldn't understand that I have feelings inside, and that I I do feel like I do care about what other people think of me sometimes. And there's been a real unraveling inside for me to let go of those limiting beliefs of what other people care about me, and leveling up into another set of confidence of, like, it's almost like I had to become not confident to become confident again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and what was so natural to us as children to just be this shining bright light, things, life experiences happen and it dims that confidence. And then we have to do the work to unpick at all of that stuff to then shine that light again. And I feel
Yeah.
like, some I feel so passionately about that. And um that's why I hold these workshops for people, because I feel like we've both been through that. and
Def-
um and that can really help a lot of people. So yeah, if that resonates with anyone, then please do click the links in the description below. I wonder, like, if there was any other experiences that you had as a child in your lifetime that you might have thought was, like, out of the ordinary.
so I remember kind of, but again, I didn't even think it was that out of the ordinary. I just would almost like a little bit psychic, like if, say, someone said, oh, I've got something to tell you, I would know what they were going to say. But I didn't even think of that as being like, oh my gosh, guess what? You know, I guessed that this had happened. I just was like, yeah, of course. But I do remember once, I'll tell you the story that I was telling you the other day. So I used to share a bedroom with both my sisters, and I was on the top bunk, and I had this little shelf next to my bunk bed, which I kept like books and whatever on, and I had this little tin which I used to keep special things inside, like crystals, or so from a young age she had a little altar going on.
I love that. I
um
didn't even know what crystals were then.
oh yeah, crystals, or just like rocks that I found outside, things that I was like, this is my special thing that I need to keep in my special box.
Mm.
And sometimes I would put the occasional little chocolate in there or something, because we weren't allowed food upstairs. And I would think, well, sometimes when I'm reading at night, I would like to have a quality street. And so, I would, because I was apparently an 80-year-old woman. And so I would collect little, quality streets or whatever it was. And one morning, I just had this really strong feeling that I needed to take them out, the chocolates, because they weren't allowed to be upstairs. They were illegally upstairs. I took them out, put them somewhere else, or whatever I did, maybe took them to school, whatever I did with them. And I got home and the shelf had fallen down. All of the books were on the bed. All of the things were on the bed. And my mum said, "Oh, by the way, your shelf fell down." And I left your stuff because I thought you'd want to put it back how you want it or whatever. And I knew in that moment, like, oh my gosh, if I'd left the chocolates in there, she would have known that I'm having secret quality streaks. Obviously, it wouldn't have been that big a deal, but I do remember as a child being like, and she didn't catch me because I knew that something was going to happen, or that she was going to find it for whatever reason, or maybe she would have, if it hadn't fallen down, maybe she would have thought, oh, I'm going to clean up this, or what, for whatever reason. I knew
Mm.
that if I left the chocolates in there, I was going to get discovered that day.
Do you have any more stories like that?
They were so normal to me that I didn't even need to log them. It would just be yeah, small things, like if someone said, oh, something's happened, and I would know, like, oh, this person's ill, or this person's dog's died, or whatever. Not always negative things. They're just ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Do you have any stories of when you were like traveling? Because when I was traveling and I went to Bali, I had so many profound experiences that happened out there where I would meet people again and again in the same place. And for example, one person I met had the same exact birthday as me and was born 30 minutes out from me, but was born
That's
completely
crazy.
the other side of the world in Australia. And I was born in London, in Watford in
Wow.
London. So that was interesting that we kept bumping into each other like coincidentally, and I say that in
Yeah.
inverted commas. So that was really fascinating. And we're still friends now. And she's doing some beautiful sound
Wow.
bath therapies and she's traveling the world at the moment, which is insane. And I wonder if you have any other stories like that, like that you can think of.
Well, I've just actually thought of another one. So, my best friend, that is literally like my soul sister. Like, we say friend is not a good enough word. Like, if we kind of meet someone new and then we have to say, oh, this is my best friend, we're both thinking like, oh, that sounds so strange, because we're not friends. It's so much deeper than being friends. And I had a childminder when I was a baby, like 2 or 3 or something, young, very young. So yeah, she looked after me from when I was that age, and is still a family friend. She also was a classroom assistant in a school. And when I was 11, when I was going to high school, she told me to look out for this girl that she had also assisted in her classroom. And she said, you two just need to look out for each other. Obviously, when you're 11, you don't listen to that. You're just thinking, okay, well, there's 180 people. Why am I going to be friends with this person that you've decided I should be friends with? But she told us each, like, you need to look out for her. You need to look out for her. And obviously, the first time we saw each other, we just were awkward 11-year-olds, like, hello, oh yeah, she told me to look out for you, kind of thing. And then I don't even know when we became the friends that we are, but then we just were. And then there's no one else that will ever compare to that friendship that we have with each other. And that's
Mm.
just, to me, that is crazy that someone did sort of set that up. And I know that we would have found each other either way, but it just, from a connection that I made when I was 2 years old, that then turned into this friendship, which will be my best friend for the rest of my life. That does feel quite, come on, guys, you're not telling me there's someone or something controlling this, or that we were in a past life sisters or whatever it is, or
Mm.
when things happen from connections, especially from when you were younger. I mean, even me and you, I mean, we would have met when I was about 11 or 12, and I did kind of know that you were a very important person. Maybe I didn't understand quite what our friendship would be, or it's difficult at 12, especially because there is an age gap between us. At 12, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be really good friends with this 18-year-old. But I definitely did just have this knowledge, like, yep, she's an important person. Like, whether or not we see each other for the next 10 years doesn't really matter. Even when we kind of reconnected, and you were downstairs showing me my human design in the kitchen and how some of the gates matched each other, I literally did not feel surprised. That's the thing that I can't describe to you, is that I was like, yeah, obviously.
But I was
Like,
surprised that day. My mind was blown because I feel like I was like a little bit in the spiritual closet, and but I was really during that time trying to like be more authentic and be like, no, Melissa, you're a spiritual person. Talk about this
yeah,
because it excites you. And it started from in the car when your mum picked us up in the car, and she said something like, "Oh, it must be. It's obviously the full moon as to why all the kids are going crazy at school." And I
yeah.
turned to her and I kind of just went, hang on a minute. Wait, you're
Like
spiritual
a
too? Like,
face.
and I was like, oh, hang on. And then I think I remember like turning back to you and just thinking like, wait, I'm trying to like piece things together. Like my brain was trying to piece back memories of like our childhood of like, oh wait, we've reconnected again at a certain point of our lives, and we're talking about these sorts of things, and we wouldn't have been able to have these conversations when you were 11, when I was 18, because I would have gone to you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
What do you mean the full moon
yeah,
is doing this? It's like
actually,
I would
yeah.
have gone, like there was something inside me to be like, oh, I do believe in my horoscope, and like, but then there was
Uh,
always that other voice, like maybe from like my boyfriend at the time or friends
yeah,
or whatnot, like reading it going, do you believe in that? Like, and the judgment of it, where I then had a
yeah,
judgment subconsciously to not resonate with it. But then there was this inside deep and knowing to be like, actually, I do feel resonance to this, but there was a
yeah.
skepticism of,
Which where you're more like logical brained, I feel like
yeah,
you're more scientist, way more scientist than me. Obviously, I was very much like English kind of brain at school, and I could like write an essay and I could make anyone believe anything.
this is where I needed the science to really give me the knowledge to really truly believe that there's more and greater to what we're existing in our reality, what this reality is.
Uh-huh.
And so when I did have those moments where I was meeting like these people and they were coming into my orbit again, into my reality, and I was like, what is the meaning of this? Like, why does this keep happening? And then I
Mm.
kind of understood and picked and found meaning in all of those things, and that led to this, and then that moment led to that, and that moment led to where I am now. That then really did give me some real clarity, and like that happened because that needed to happen. Because if that didn't happen, I would not be here. Like, for example, if my ACL didn't tear, I would be in South America right now. And we potentially might not be having this conversation because I wouldn't have had those meetings with you and talking about those spiritual things. We are in the right place at the right time, and the right things are being said, as you said earlier, and the right things are
Yeah.
happening as they should. And it's all in divine timing.
And it's not a mistake that both of us, for different reasons, like obviously you because of your knee, me because I kind of had enough of ships and I wanted to be more present for my grandparents. And I don't think it's a mistake that we were both at home at the same time. And then even when we meet up, it's like, oh, when are you free? Oh, I'm free from 11 till 12 on Wednesday. Oh, brilliant. That's the only time that I'm free as well.
There was another story that came to mind that you told me about you in Australia.
So I was on a touring production in Australia, and one of the crew basically was a witch. And she would just say to everyone, I'm a witch. And probably most people were like, okay, she's a weirdo. And I was like, yeah, makes sense. She's a witch. Like, didn't even think anything, because that to me is not anything unusual. That's not anything weird. That's just nice, cool, like, good. Then she's here to look out for us. So she kind of offered to do our cards for anyone who was interested in it. And I was obviously like, yep, of course. And I'd pretty recently lost, very sadly, one of my acting teachers. But I really felt like I associated getting that contract in general with her. The dates that the contract start were all perfect and they all lined up with things. This Australia contract worked out perfectly, and I always felt like she was watching over me for that contract. She helped make it work out. And it was a contract that I wasn't expecting. I didn't really audition for. I was recommended for it by someone else. And I really felt like there was a guardian angel over me. And I think it was my teacher. And a few times I'd felt pretty emotional about it. And, I remember singing and wishing that she could have come to see it. Not that she probably wouldn't have even been able to come to see it because it was in Australia, but I just really kind of felt like I wanted to make her proud on this show. So then the lady who was the witch said that she was going to do our cards, and basically one of mine was to listen out for messages from people that were no longer with us. So obviously I'm like, okay, I've got it. Like, I'm getting the messages. And she said especially can communicate with feathers, which is something that I've always, seen a feather at a weird time, or like a feather just land on my lap, or it's not just that I've seen it on the floor or something. It's specifically fallen into my bag, or for example, things like that. And anyway, with that, I'm kidding you not, a feather literally came into the room as she was saying that. And
Love stories like
there was,
this.
yeah, me, my best friend on the tour, and this lady, and we were all just like, and so then, okay, yep, we got it, we got it. um, and yeah, I really thought that is just such a sign that she's kind of looking out for me on this tour and in all my future jobs. And she was just a really important mentor and teacher. Then there was one evening where I really felt like I should just walk home from the theatre instead of get on the bus, because it was like a 10-minute walk or something. And so my friend and I, who was the same one that had been in the room for this whole feather saga, we start walking home, and we walked past this shop, and it was a hairdresser, and it was called Elva, which is the name of my teacher. And we'd gone the wrong way. We randomly ended up outside this hairdresser's. By the way, it's the only one in the whole of Australia. It's not a chain. It just happened to be what do you know what I mean? What more clear sign can you have that someone is watching over you and is
Well,
looking out for
goosebumps.
you, that you stand outside and see their name on a sign from walking the wrong way, and it's the only one in Australia. Not the only one in a small country, the only one in a massive country. So I was like, okay, everything's good. She is still looking out for me.
There's that message.
Yeah, there's the message. And then literally a couple of weeks later, the lady who was the witch said, I've got a present for both of you. I actually bought these a couple of weeks ago because I saw a feather and I followed it into a shop, and there were these two oracle cards. And so she bought them both, and she gave one to me and one to my best friend. And I asked her which town it was in. And of course, it had been in the same town that we'd walked, seen the hairdressers. And even though this was a few weeks ago, and I was like, I know exactly where you bought them. I know what town you bought them.
I love that. Have you had any memories of any past lives?
I was trying to think about this, and I think as a child, maybe more so. Because I would have very vivid dreams. I had a lot of imaginary friends. I was very, as I say, like very knowledgeable on things. I would just know the answers to things. But what I do get a lot is that I actually have facial blindness. I don't know if I've told you that.
No, you haven't told me that. What
So
is that?
if I meet someone, basically as soon as they've gone, I can't actually remember their face. I literally cannot hold faces in my head.
So how do you remember things then?
So say like someone came into the coffee shop and then I had a whole conversation with them and then they left, I would genuinely not be able to like imagine their face in my head until I've met them multiple times.
What do you remember then? The aura, the words,
I kind of remember like almost like a blurry version of them. Or quite often what happens is I replace their face with the face of someone that I do know, like a celebrity. So it's kind of a weird thing when I do recognize someone, because I've either like kind of seen them multiple times, or what I think is I know that they're important to me. So then my brain can be like, well, you need to remember this face because you're going to need to know it later on. It sounds like it's a made up thing, but it is definitely a real thing because I've researched into other people that have facial blindness. Some people I can just remember their face instantly, and some people I can't. And I think I must have met them then in previous lives, and that's the only reason I can remember, because I have met you multiple times.
all these stories that you've shared with me. It's just so fascinating, and it's just really exciting, like being able to just talk so freely and openly. And that's the kind of purpose and aim for me for this podcast, is to not make it taboo, and for it just to be spoken about with people freely, so that we can also relate as well. Like some of these things that you've spoken about, like the facial recognition, like I had no idea that was a thing. That's incredible that that's how your brain works, but that's okay because you are born differently. You have different things. I can empathize and relate to that a little bit, of like sometimes I just can't picture people's faces as well, even if I've known them for years. But then like other people's faces are so vivid, but only in certain specific times. And it's almost as if like my brain is not allowing that in that moment, but then other times it is. But last final question that I want to ask you for our listeners is that what's one piece of advice you'd give someone who's lost and trying to find their purpose from your innate wisdom to them?
I think my biggest piece of advice is to just trust where you are. And even when you feel like you kind of don't know something, or you might be not sure which path you're going down, you have to trust that every decision that you're making is the right decision, because it will lead you to exactly where you need to be. And you're already exactly where you need to be. But even, making a hard decision like turning down a job, which people think you should do, or maybe if you're making a decision that's like financially not the best decision, or who's making these decisions about what you should or shouldn't do. I think financially is quite a relatable one, because quite often you might think, oh, I want to go traveling, and your parents or your partner might say, well, that's not a good idea because you only have so much in savings and we want to get a house next year, or whatever it is. But if you feel like you should do something, or you want to turn down an opportunity because it just doesn't feel right, or whatever it is, then trust that you are doing the right thing, even if society or someone would tell you that it's the wrong thing. I think that would be my biggest piece of advice, is trust that what you're doing is the right thing and where you are is exactly the right place.
I love that. Thank you so much. And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work that you're doing in the world?
It's at Milly Papworth.
We'll pop it in the show notes. And can you tell me what's one takeaway that you want the listener to leave with from our conversation today?
Well, I think the most special thing about our kind of connection is that it came from such a long time ago, and we had no idea of how important we were going to be to each other. And the other day I kind of like thought about the seeds that you've planted years ago that you don't even remember planting actually might be a flower that you can have tomorrow. And something that you did when you were 11 or 19 or whatever age it might be, might just become an opportunity for you later. So just let yourself plant those seeds and also let yourself pick those flowers, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I have more goosebumps. I love that. All those seeds that we planted years ago could be a flower tomorrow. I love that.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna take that away. That was so beautiful. I'm gonna write that down and put that on my workspace. That's so beautiful. Milly, thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. We'll have you on as soon as we can for the next one. And I cannot wait for like to see what blossoms in your life and your career, and to hold so many more workshops together.
Yeah.
Um
Yes.
and yeah, singing on the seas together as well. So it's all happening, and we can be whatever we want to be. I love you so much, and I hope that you have the best day. And thank you for tuning in today in the Purpose Search podcast. Bye.